Okay, we are recording. Um, Hi, Toufic. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today for today's episode of Rethinking Legal Ops. Toufic, our speaker, we're really grateful to have you here. I'll begin by introducing myself, and then Toufic, if you could share a few words about yourself and your work. We're all very, very curious to know about your work, especially your Metaverse law firm. It's just so futuristic and so interesting. So really looking forward to learning more about that. But my name is Aishwarya. I'm the head of legal at Speed Legal. We are a San Francisco-based company. We use artificial intelligence and natural language processing to be able to pick out and extract the key information from contracts, and also at the same time compare them to standard contracts to flag any potential risks, and do that sort of analysis so that lawyers and contract reviewers' work could be expedited and made much faster from having to spend hours to minutes. And we're very passionate about connecting more with the legal tech community and learning about the awesome opportunities there are for collaboration and innovation in the legal industry, transforming the future of law. Tofik, if you want to jump in and talk about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Toufic. I'm the managing director of a boutique law firm in Canada called Renno Co. We primarily work with emerging tech and blockchain-based startups and medium-sized enterprises. Um, we've been kind of forced, I guess, by our client base, who's extremely technologically advanced and demands quite heavily, of their service providers to be innovative and forward thinking. For us to also be forward thinking as well. So we've developed a fairly tech advanced law firm that uses kind of the best tools, not only externally but internally, to be able to kind of service clients and run a more operationally efficient law firm.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Shafiq. And again, really excited to learn more about how you run your law firm so efficiently, and also kind of try to see like how it all fits into this like future of practicing law, which I think is being shaped in the current decade that we're in. So in rethinking legal ops, we try to have conversations around this type of stuff about what are like some of like the newest things in legal tech. What is the role of AI in reshaping how we think about it and how we practice law? But I'll just start with something I've been mentioning. Tawfiq, can you talk a bit more about how a law firm can exist in the metaverse? What are the operational functionalities of it, and just what is it like?
Yeah. So a law firm can exist in, well, maybe let me backtrack. We're existing in the metaverse right now, right? We're all actually communicating on a platform that allows for the sharing of multiple streams of audio and visual connection. Um, this is not reality. I'm sitting here in sunny Bermuda, and you're sitting wherever the hell you are, and we're having a conversation. And I get to see you, and you get to see me. This is not. This is a form of metaverse, a limited one at that. So, what is a law firm's role in the metaverse? What are you doing in the metaverse? Well, you're essentially doing what we're doing here. You're communicating, you're interacting, and you're. But the only difference is that you're creating uh, more information points that can be exchanged um, through through the peer-to-peer interactions that exist on the metaverse. Um, so we have a couple of our meetings in the metaverse as a law firm, which have been really fun. It's still you know quite new, so the functionalities have not yet been expanded quite uh, quite increasingly. But you could see the potential there, where you could start actually having virtual meetings that resemble much more physical meetings, and all the nice things that you like about physical meetings you may be able to get in a virtual environment. Again, this is no different than what we're doing now. Before we used to do conference calls, and those were a form of meetings that had no visual. Now we have visuals, and we can now share links and posts and stuff like that, increasing the amount of information points. And here we're just increasing that one step further. Um, Having a metaverse office is cool. I like it. We got to design it. We designed it like a regular office because a regular office is also cool. We made sure that we had kombucha on tap, which is a request from all our lawyers. So we got that. And one of our lawyers actually runs an NFT gallery. Um, so she was able to actually curate our office um, in and it looks, it hasn't been completed yet. The renos, maybe I should call it renos, haven't been completed yet. So, but we were looking at the schematics the other day. So, looks really nice. I would say, pass by the tokens.com tower in Decentraland to check it out, and yeah, and check out our artwork.
That's awesome. That sounds really exciting. And what is usually when you meet potential clients, and you tell them that you have like an office in the metaverse, and like you're doing this. What is usually what are the kind of feedback or like reactions that you've gotten? Very curious about that.
Yeah, so from clients, a lot of them say that's awesome. Um, I think for us, one of our principles at our firm is learning by doing. Um, and it's extremely important for digital assets to be able to actually kind of get in there and figure it out yourself. I find it disingenuous for lawyers to be um, working in certain highly technical fields without actually getting their feet in it a little bit, right? You're a tech lawyer. It's not that you necessarily have to understand how to code, or you have to understand um, how to run an application or whatnot. But do you know the different languages? Do you know what they do? Do you know the different ways in which you can upload things on GitHub? Do you know the different softwares that are able to apply certain code? Are you able to even interact with some of these low code or no code platforms? Um, through these firsthand experiences, I think you're able to actually create a more robust legal services because you're kind of living the client's experience a little. And I think it's disingenuous for lawyers um, not to be able to do that, especially in highly technical fields. Maybe in something a little less technical, you know, don't go get a divorce from your spouses just so you know how it feels to get a divorce and be a better divorce lawyer. Maybe if you're committed to your practice that much, go ahead and get a divorce. I'm sure it will definitely add to your practice strengths there. You know, I'll bet in certain situations it may be hard to do it, like in personal injury or divorce or whatnot. But in certain situations like ours, where it's high tech and low personal cost for you to do it, then I think it's a good idea to do it. Um, Lawyers have usually kind of looked at me fairly funny when I talk to them about the metaverse office. I think it's natural for a lawyer's reflex to be like, well, have you thought about this? Well, have you thought about that? Or did you consider this? Or did you consider that? Or what about this? What about that? And so I get a lot of those questions from my colleagues in other firms, which is fine as well.
Right. Yeah, and you made a really important point there. It's like learning by doing, and how a lot of these changes like are already happening. Like artificial intelligence, legal tech is very much integrating into how we practice law. I want to, and of course, like lawyers do tend to, be a little bit averse sometimes, and it's very, very relevant for us to be able to understand different types of technologies that we work with. or have that sort of insight into it. I want to hear more of your thoughts on in how many ways do you see artificial intelligence and like legal tech innovation already changing the global legal industry, and you're part of like driving that change, of course, but what are some of the other ways?
Yeah, I think I think everything that can be done to streamline and process the way in which services are given is a positive thing. Um, Again, there's a lot of, you know, fear and fear-based conversations in the legal community around AI, legal tech, etc. I think a lot of those fear-based conversations are are happening over email, which is also a technological innovation, at a certain point. I'm sure I don't, I'm not privy to the debates, but I'm sure that when email started getting introduced as a method of communication, I'm sure there's a lot of law firms that didn't want to do it and wanted to still have handwritten letters sent out through mail. And I'm sure it was the same thing when the telephone came about and other types of innovations that we've had, like the fax. Um, so history repeats itself. But at the end of the day, email, fax, and telephone are ubiquitous. At least they were. I hope no one's faxing anything these days. Uh, but uh, but it's something that I think is cyclical, and I think we have to embrace. The difference maybe today is that the changes are going to be, fairly drastic, um, potentially over the long run. But I still think of it as something that is extremely cyclical, that's happened many times, and that the legal industry has had to evolve and pick up these new technologies to be able to actually, service their clients better. On on the method in which it's going to happen, I think we're going to see a bifurcation in the legal industry where you're going to have um, essentially low value, highly automatable work being completely automated and experiencing a race to the bottom with respect to prices. Um, we're talking about, your incorporations, your terms of service, employment agreements, maybe shareholders agreements in some cases. Um, you're going to see a big race to the bottom there. You're going to see a race to the bottom as well, potentially with legal research, where the necessity to be able to produce a memo and do, 2, 3 hours of research now with very strong AI databases that exist for legal research. Um, you know, Creating that activity essentially moves. Um, that's on one end. On the second end of the bifurcation is that you're going to have lawyers that are the lawyer's role is going to be one that deals with extremely complex problem solving challenges, relationship and client management, and being almost a hub of 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 connections, referrals, and value add. So what does that mean for you as a practitioner? Well, I think, first things first is to, really practice on your client and file and relationship management skills. Because a lot of what you may be doing is project managing and client and relationship managing more than actual legal work. And then when it actually comes to the legal work, you know, I think I think developing an extremely intense um, focus in a particular area where you kind of are able to solve the most complex problems um, is going to be where the value add is going to be in the long run. For us at our firm, I started practicing in blockchain in 2017, and I've done almost 90% of my clients since 2017 till today have been in blockchain. So, though many people say, yeah, they've been practicing in blockchain a little longer than I have, um, I don't know if many people have been practicing in that intensity. Uh, so that renders our ability in our firm to be the firm that, has the deep knowledge base and understanding to be able to solve the complex problems that blockchain digital asset companies are experiencing at this time. That is our value add, and that is, what we do the best. And that comes from the fact that, we've been practicing in this space, exclusively for 5 years. We've built an extremely large knowledge management system around this space, and we've been able to bring in, a variety of talented um, lawyers who can only add and share collective intelligence amongst the firm in this space. So um, it's it's been it's been a very interesting way of going about it, and we also, just playing onto that, we also have an app on our website called the Renno Co app, which allows us to illustrates the other side of the bifurcation where folks can just jump, grab an automated document and be able to to receive it almost instantly and be on with their day. So yeah, I think that's kind of the general direction that I see the legal kind of industry going.
Hmm. Yeah, I totally agree. And when we talk about like faster solutions, like automating like more sort of like the boring like standardized work, um, I understand that from like a law firm, a lawyer's perspective, like reducing your work, becoming more efficient, providing quicker solutions. But how is that in particular important for startups or like smaller businesses that and how can it significantly help them cut down on costs?
Yeah, like I think startups just want to get shit done, right? Like and and I've seen it time and time again. It's actually just a hilarious experience when you think about it, where you have this startup who's, he's in or she's in like a goal crushing mode, like do this, get that, set this up, right? And then they go to their lawyers and they're like, okay, I just need this, and this to get done. And next thing you know, their lawyer's like, have you thought about this? Why have you thought about that? Why have you done this? Well, this might not work. Hmm. Have you thought of this like 1% risk chance that may actually never happen, but I'm gonna say it because it makes me feel better about myself. That's and then you see their eyes kind of like glaze over, and they're like, okay, well, why the fuck am I here? And and why am I doing this? Why am I even doing this project? It's almost kind of again, I'm going to use this word disingenuous to the scope of law, right? Law is supposed to be there to actually facilitate business. We're supposed to be there to actually encourage business. The common law and the economic reasons for the creation of common law are, from a historical standpoint, married to the hip. But now, we've for some reason we've become a drag on economic growth. Uh, if we continue down this path of being overly pedantic when it's not necessary. Um, does the person, I had a client come up to us and they said we need a TOS. They had an extremely complex, data collection system, right? In which they were able to collect a variety of different data points and blah blah blah, and then they sell it back to the insurance companies, right? To be able to create a better insurance profile. And just saying that, I'm sure all of you guys are like, well, there's a zillion issues there, right? Uh, Regarding a variety of different legal problems. Um, but they came up to us and they said, we only want this because one of our insurers needs us to have TOS with a limitation of liability. I'm like, guys, there's a lot of work to be done here, but for the purposes of your exact thing, I'm just going to give you, the boilerplate with, a stronger limitation of liability, and disclaim myself saying that there's going to be there's a need for work here, but all you need is this particular thing. So client was happy, I'm happy, and and yeah, I did have that inkling to go down and be like, well, there's a million problems with what you're doing, but in reality, that wasn't really the scope of what was requested. As long as you kind of disclaim yourself from any future issues, you know, in writing, then who cares, right?
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point you bring up about like streamlining, how lawyers also communicate with their clients, because it is true lawyers can be a little bit OCD about this is not going to happen. But I've done a lot of issue spotters throughout law school, so I have to say it, because for that like I don't know, like the way I sometimes think about it is, it's that one extra point, I don't know in my head. I just am so trained and used to just like saying those extra things. So that's really hopeful to think
Yeah,
about it this way.
yeah. Like an example that I like to bring up is, BlockFi. I don't know if you know, but BlockFi is essentially a cryptocurrency company in the United States that essentially allows you to generate interest off of your crypto deposits. Um, they recently got a fine for $100 million from the SEC, right? And um, and it was clear from day one, anyone who knew kind of securities law or the Bank Secrecy Act would be able to tell you that they're a deposit taking institution and therefore have to abide by these regulations. And I'm sure if they spoke to a lawyer at the beginning, he would have been like, "Don't do this. Don't do this company. You're breaking all these laws." But when you're making 8 billion in ARR, 100 million is just the cost of doing business. So don't be that lawyer who's telling a $1 billion company to tell them the risks. For sure, you have to tell them the risks, but make sure you always mitigate those risks with if this is the cost of doing business for your industry, then go ahead. I'm sure BlockFi will take $100 million penalty yearly if it means that they are able to generate the amount of revenues that they can generate. Uh, so yeah, it's there has to be these business considerations that are taken into account when giving legal advice, because I don't know how many ideas have been killed by a lawyer bringing up this like opaque risk that never materializes.
Totally. Yeah. Getting lawyers to think outside the box and like think in more sort of functional terms rather than like, like the rigid, like, like letter of the law mindset. We're often like taught in law school, like, you think about it in like such a structured manner, but to, think about many other things. It's a very interesting point, and like role of like legal tech and streamlining like uh,
Yeah, you
many
bring up a
clients.
great point as well. Like it's our training sucks, right? Like that's the whole thing is like we've been trained to be jurists, so to speak. I don't even know what a jurist is, but like we're trained we're trained to be a jurist, and and we apply ourselves as then we go to law school, go to write the bar and become lawyers, and we have that training like you said, but that training really misses the whole point, and that's like we're conduits, we're conduits for business transactions, right? We're supposed to allow the transaction to exist, right? We're supposed to allow the business venture to happen, and 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 it goes down to the fact that lawyers are pretty crappy business people. I'm sure all of you are pretty great, but like just on a general standpoint, and 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 where when are we going to start seeing these types of programs and curriculum in our law schools that allow lawyers to become a little bit more business savvy, right? To understand business needs, to understand business scopes and models and to be able to apply those principles in their practice. I think that would be a huge value add.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that, and I also want to just going off of that. I've sort of had interactions with like tech people and like lawyers, and I want to hear about what you think about who is a little bit more receptive to innovation. Are you answered this a little bit earlier, but in your experience, are lawyers like they hear legal tech and they're just like no, because of some of the points like our training, the way we think, and like are tech people a little bit more open to it, like oh this is a new innovative solution, like we need to embrace it. What has been your experience?
Yeah, so I you know I I could talk for about an hour on this subject, so I'm gonna try to keep it as straight to the point as possible. Um, on the lawyer side, I feel like there is a there has to be a certain profile of lawyer that is ready to accept a new way of doing law. Um, we have hired in our firm, a couple of lawyers who, for whatever reason, had an extremely difficult time with change, right? And they were not able to actually change um their method of of practicing law, which is unfortunate, right? Because I think, you know, there is, certain lawyers with a large amount of experience that would, be very useful in a new practice. However, the operational efficiencies that come about with, turning the whole system around just to fit them into the system is very, very difficult. So, I think for lawyers, you know, being okay to being uncomfortable is going to be a really important part of your practice. Continuously being uncomfortable. Um, you know, Philosophical points aside on that, should be your status quo. You are technically always uncomfortable, right? So it's okay to also push the boundaries a little bit in your practice, and that allows you to at least be able to try new things, implement them, experience them, and operate with them in order to kind of improve things. Um, another problem on the client side is that I'm having is that most of the products are just not good enough, right? And what I mean not good enough is that they do not they're not able to solve the variety of of kind of issues that appear through a client and lawyer or client and law firm relationship in a manner which is set to the standard of the consumer. And this is one thing that I like to say all the time is that, law firms currently, your operational efficiencies are not being compared to other law firms or other lawyers. They're being compared to the Amazons and the Ubers of the world, right? And it's freaking tough to be that operationally efficient, right? These guys dump a crap ton of money into making sure that calling an Uber is as seamless as hell. And it is seamless as hell. And buying, and buying a book off of Amazon is likewise. But how do you take that operational efficiency from two of the most largest companies out there and apply it to your practice, even in large firms who have the resources to be able to deploy for this? It's really, really hard. And in the legal tech space, we still haven't seen kind of, legal tech players, big enough to be able to invest the correct amount of resources in this. Uh, Clio, again, which many of falls short on a number of easy stuff that could, potentially be used to enhance client offering. And it's partially not all their faults because there isn't a standard model for operating a law firm, right? There's law firms big and small. Um, Different jurisdictions exert different things for lawyers, and just speaking from the United States and Canada, you got about 60 jurisdictions that you need to kind of mold to per jurisdiction. It's extremely tough. So, I'm bitching and I'm not giving solutions, but it is, I do understand that, like, it's an extremely tough situation. So what you end up having is a bit of a disjointed um, client experience as well on the legal technology side, um, which is unideal, but is kind of the reality of the situation. And building it yourself, we've done that, and it's also its own kind of road marred with a billion issues. Um, Most of which is that none of you guys have probably started a startup or a tech company, and running a law firm and starting a tech company is near next to impossible. Uh, for a variety of, trust me, I've tried, and for a variety of reasons. Mostly, it's because the goals, it boils down to the concepts of execution and management, right? when you're running a startup, you're managing teams, you're managing people. When you're a lawyer, you're executing on legal work, right? Both of which are extremely time consuming. Um, so being able to wear two hats in that sense creates a huge amount of resource suck. And if your resource is time on the law side, every dollar that you invest in on the other side, on the product side, is essentially a dual investment. Not only is it a dual investment in the time in which you're investing in, and I'm on a podcast.
Okay, so
Okay.
this table is just ours to use, and our we work right there, and we can hear you. And you have a table in the back to use. This is actually off limits. We rent the cottage with this table. You're
Okay.
allowed to use the pool if you want to sit over there, but this is off.
I'll also take some of this time to ask the audience. Do you guys have any sort of questions? If you do, just post them in the chat, and we can go from there. Or if you want to like maybe post like one line about how what your experience has been like with legal tech, either in your firm or your work, or just how much legal tech you're using. You can like say like one word: a lot, a little, not at all. It's I'm using that because it's like from a children's rhyme, right? Like I think children have this rhyme, like a lot, a little, not at all, in a different context. But if you all want to pick a lot or a little or not at all with regards to how much legal tech you all use, and just type that in the chat. That would be super cool.
Sorry, guys. I think I pissed off my neighbor.
Yeah, it's all good. That's
We
what we
just
need.
we
We need like everyone to become more like open to tech and not kicked out.
uh yeah, I think we just came to Bermuda for a conference, and our and I didn't know that that was off limits. Um,
Oops.
yeah, and I thought we had access to that table. I guess we don't.
It's
Um,
all good.
Sorry about that, guys. Um, yeah, so I forget where I was, but
You're talking about just spreading your resources and like running a law firm and a tech company, sort of side by side and wearing multiple hats.
yeah. So we yeah, essentially it's quite tough. Um, and it's not. It's obviously doable. Like anything's doable, but it's just you would have to structure it in a way to ensure that it's doable, right? So yeah, all that to say is that the clients demand quite a bit, and we actually can't really meet what the clients are requesting. Um, so because of the high standard that's been set with a lot of these SaaS companies.
I think you trailed off a little bit, but I get what you mean. So I think like the major themes, like for like today's episodes, could possibly be like getting things done, being like lawyers as problem solvers, not like not simply like communicators of those problems. And there was like a third thing that you had said that I can't recall right now. Like I have to look at my notes, but you had made a point about this being like reality, and like the sooner like law firms start like jumping onto this and becoming a part of it, like the more sort of a competitive edge could all get, and like particularly for startups, like getting things done. I guess it would be like our theme. And to wrap up very quickly, Toufic, I just want to ask you, um, you have been doing like digital real estate portfolios at your firm. I read a little bit about that. Can you talk very briefly about that? I just found that concept to be very intriguing. And then we'll wrap up.
Sorry, my digital asset portfolio.
Yeah.
As in kind of the assets that the law firm has.
Yeah, like building your own digital real estate portfolio, like through your law firm.
Oh, right, with the metaverse. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that kind of comes down to. Let me see if I'm set up here. Oh, hey everyone. Sorry about that again.
This background is
The,
better. It's funnier.
yeah,
So
yeah. The Airbnb wasn't very clear. So we we obviously this comes down to our like, belief in blockchain and belief um in digital assets and the strength of preservation of value through digital assets, so to speak. Um, tax issues aside, because there's quite a bit of tax stuff that we can delve into, but I think that can be done at a different time. Um, we, at the firm have taken the position that fiat currency is kind of crappy and is a difficult method and is a difficult way to actually preserve long-term value. I think most of you guys probably agree with that. That's not a very, I would say, contentious issue. Uh, no one has, no one has, their life savings, or I hope you don't, in a savings account, because probably the returns at the moment are not actually surpassing inflation, and you're actually probably net losing all that value over time. Um, So in the law firm, obviously building a digital asset portfolio, in the metaverse, in particular, is extremely interesting for us because it allows us to exercise our comparative advantage that we have vis-a-vis the market and able to actually invest um, in virtual real estate to be able to preserve firm assets in the long term. So it's extremely exciting. Um, Again, this is one of the benefits for us as being as an Inc. and not an LLP, is that we're able to reinvest the funds and we don't actually necessarily have to quote unquote pay out profits, on an annual basis. Um, uh, So yeah, it's been an exciting time, and I think again, any of the lawyers here that are running their own firm or running a small firm need to take those things into consideration.
awesome. Thank you so much, Toufic. I think for today's podcast, we should probably call it. We should definitely call it like getting things done, and like the role of AI and legal tech in expediting and also helping reduce costs, especially in the context of like startups, and also so to get the lawyers to think more outside the box, be like more like problem solvers, become more business savvy. I really appreciated all your insights. Thanks so much for joining us today, and thanks so much to all of the listeners here. Really appreciate you all tuning in. So unless you all have any questions, we will wrap up for today because I think we're a little bit over on time already, but we'll be posting some of like the major points covered in this podcast later on LinkedIn as well. So stay tuned for that. Otherwise, see you at the next episode next week.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for your time. Appreciate you having me on board.
Thank you, Toufic. It's been a pleasure
All right.
talking.
Cheers. Bye.
Bye.